Carla Zanoni speaks with us
from DNAinfo.
I'm going very old school. I have my notes on a cocktail napkin here. Just want to prove to you that we still use pens and paper. So my name is Carla Zanoni, and I'm the Director of Social Media and Engagement at DNAinfo. For folks who aren't familiar with us, and I hope as New Yorkers you are familiar with us, we are a hyperlocal news site both here in New York and Chicago, and hopefully the beyond in the coming months and years. And what we do is really create and tap into communities throughout urban settings. And what that means is, for our journalists, is basically figuring out, once they're on the ground in the neighborhoods that we cover, which is all of the neighborhoods in New York and Chicago proper, and really build the relationships that they've developed on the ground and take those into the virtual world. And the way that they do that is through some tools like, obviously Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all sorts of social media platforms that I'm sure you've heard about quite a bit. And what we're really trying to do is take social media beyond just a broadcasting platform. One of the beauties of social media is that it's a two-way conversation. And I think some of the errors of traditional journalists on social media in the beginning was basically using it as an RSS feed, replicating what they were putting on in print and on their website, and just pushing out all of that content. But like I said, there's this dual conversation that's coming on social media, and that's something really new. In the past, I know for me, and I have only been a journalist for a little bit more than a decade, it used to be that maybe I would be lucky and receive a letter to the editor about one of my stories. I had my fingers crossed that somebody had actually read the story that I had reported on. And whether that was good feedback or bad feedback, I was excited. And I actually still have a file of those letters, right? So today, we have social media, and there is instant communication when a story is published, and feedback. What did we miss? What did we get right? What do we need to do next? The story is never static, right? We're constantly growing. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we do, at DNAinfo, we have, obviously, we're a digital-only publication. We send out daily newsletters each day of the week, except for weekends. And in that newsletter, you receive information about everything that's gone on in your neighborhood, broader city stories, and information about the reporter in your neighborhood. How to contact them, how to send them tips. You can use the oldest social media platform, which would be email, and just respond and let us know if there's something going on in your neighborhood. Like I said, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And I think a point that was made, I believe Greg made it, when we actually take the step into social media as journalists, we are looking not just at what our competitors or our friends are tweeting about or posting about. It's about really dipping into that community and finding out what the people, what the general public and what the very niche public in the different neighborhoods are talking about. And the way to do that, I basically have worked with our editorial team to teach them how to follow hashtags on Twitter, find different topics that are important to and relevant to the community that you're reporting on, digging deep into the neighborhoods and what they're discussing. And some of the ways that we do that is going into Facebook groups. Reddit is a huge piece for us, especially in New York and Chicago. Reddit is a thriving community. Subreddits are kind of forums. I'll actually bring that up. So you can see here that Reddit has topics throughout the world, and you can really drill down and learn about what people are talking about in New York City. You could also drill down even further and look to see what people are talking about in my neighborhood in northern Manhattan. Let's see. So here's a person that is writing about having been homeless once and living in a cave near the cloisters in Upper Manhattan. So my start at DNAinfo was actually covering this neighborhood in Wood and Washington Heights, and I can tell you, if I were still covering that neighborhood, I would be trying very hard to find this person. I have had numerous tips on stories this kind of way, or people actually reaching out to me and speaking to me on Twitter, Facebook, what have you. And one of the things that I've always talked to our journalists about is utilizing these tools, but utilizing them now, growing your community, growing your presence, getting people to know who you are now, before you need the story. There's a pet peeve of mine, a bad practice I think a lot of us have gotten into, which is, oh my God, I have to write about a story, I'm going to go crowdsource to a bunch of people who I don't know, who have no idea of who I am. Hopefully you've done the work beforehand so that you've built that trust and you're having an authentic connection with folks. That kind of vulture conversation, I think that comes up a lot in breaking news, and it's very difficult, especially when you're doing national and international. That's where we have the benefit of really covering a niche community. It's all about relationship building. I was saying to Shri before the talk, that we are all about building community, whether that's with the people who live in a neighborhood, the people who work in a neighborhood, the businesses in a neighborhood. Those are the building blocks of community, and it's no different between relationship building on the ground in the virtual world. Another thing that we really try to do is have our reporters tweet their beats, write about their beats, post on Instagram, on 4chan, if that's the one, whatever it is that your community is utilizing to communicate with, get on there. I know for myself as a reporter, it started out that folks were on Twitter and Facebook, and then a lot of people moved over to Instagram. If I hadn't been tracking this and watching the kind of communication that was happening, I would have lost out on a lot of stories. So it's about not necessarily building a platform and finding the trendiest thing to use, but figuring out where people are actually talking and having that kind of authentic conversation with them. So I brought up, 4chan, Vine, Snapchat. I could go on and on with a list of niche sites. There are really interesting conversations going on, and I have to say, 4chan and Snapchat, for example, have given us the opportunity to tap into a community that we would have never really been able to speak to, primarily younger folks. Facebook tends to skew a little bit older, and those are folks that we could traditionally find at a community board meeting or a city council meeting or something like that. But it's been pretty interesting to be able to learn more from the younger crowd on these trendier sites, and that's why it's so important to be conscious of them and trying to just learn what everybody's using. I don't know, I think that's about